Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Boris. Today we'll be learning how to draw tiles in the Kaşan style. Unfortunately, we don't have time to make the actual tiles themselves because we only have a few hours. So what we're going to learn instead of making is the drawing technique they used to apply the luster onto the surface of the tile. So we'll be making our own tiles, but out of paper. And then at the end, hopefully we'll have enough tiles to put together. We'll have a nice big panel of star and cross tiles. I've got some samples here of my own work, if any of you are interested in the technique and how it works when it's actually applied, then please come up to the front and have a look. And hopefully that will get you inspired. So we're going to be looking at the drawing techniques. Today we're going to focus on, we're going to be looking at the more of the figurative work, so the animals, the vegetal motifs, and the human figure. And then in the session after, later on, we'll be focusing more on the kind of geometric patterns, the arabesque patterns, but using a bit of geometry. So to start off, first of all, we're going to draw our template of the 8-pointed star. It's a very simple template. So yeah, if you get your A3 paper and just fold it very accurately in half this way, a nice straight line down the middle. And then another one vertically. Again, make sure the corners, make sure it's accurate, so the corners match up. So what you should end up with is the cross, like that. And that's just to get the horizontal and the vertical line. So you should end up with something like this. And that's to get... Yeah? Okay, so now we're going to create our 8-pointed star. So we get our compass and set it to 8.2 centimeters. 8.2. That's just going to give us our template. It's the same size. We'll be making, the end result will be a tile that's about this, a shape that's going to be about this size. And then what we're going to do is put the point in the center of the page and draw your first circle around the center, like that. Once you've finished that, you can draw your first square. So if you join up where the edges link to the line, you'll get your, sorry, my geometry's not good, but that will get you your first square. So where the circle meets the horizontal and the vertical line, if you connect those up, you'll get your first square. For those of you who know about geometry, now we have to get the other square. So we're going to place our compass point on the points of the square and draw other circles. So you're going to have same. Don't change your compass at all. And so you're placing it on these. You're placing it on these points of the circle. Yeah, that's fine. It'll go off the edge on either side. That's fine. You don't need that part on the 4 points. You'll find it goes over the edge on the narrow points of the paper, but that's no problem because we're not going to be using that And we're doing this to get the diagonals. So once you've... And then what we're going to do is going to get the diagonals. So the points here where the circles intersect, here and here, we're going to draw a straight line between the two. So between the points where the outer circles intersect here, we can draw a diagonal between the two. And then next we're going to draw the line across to get our 8-pointed star. So, yeah, that line there. So it's this line that goes across. It's not very. It's this line that goes across and meets there, your 8-pointed star. Yeah. So so what you're going to end up is something like this. So it's where the circle, and that's going to be your that'll be your template. That's the only bit of geometry we're doing today. We can also, now that we've got the star, we can make the cross out of it as well. So we've got the 8-pointed star there. You join up these 2 points and these 2 points. So here and here and here, where they meet there. Then you get the cross in the centre of the tile. And this will be our template for the pattern.
Do we need the square?
No. We just need the 8-pointed star and the cross. That's all we need. And these 2 points to there. Yeah, that's great. So now we draw a diagonal between these 2 points here. Yeah. And then from here. And then we go from this point to this point with the ruler, and then and that will get you the star. Do you want some help? Okay. Can I sorry, I just need to get by here. So the cross is going from here to here to there. So here to there. Yeah. If you outline the star now in the pen, if you ever can bring the pens or thicker pencil so we can see, and then we're going to trace the star over the top. Yeah, just the star. With our tracing paper, yeah. So if you just trace down the star with our tracing paper, then we'll be ready. To begin. So if we trace round the design our tracing paper, then we'll be ready to begin the fun part, the drawing. Drawing by hand. We'll be drawing by hand. The Kaşan potters are drawing by hand. They work very fast, very fluently, and irregularly. So if they make a mistake, it's no problem. So don't worry. The whole point of the exercise is to develop a fluid drawing style. So if you make a mistake when you're drawing a figure, then don't worry. If the figures look a bit strange, that's good, because in this particular style, a lot of you're not trying to create a representative figure, it's more the essence of the figure. So what we're doing here really is just, we've got the shape, which is what the potters would have been faced with, except theirs would have been a tile, like you see here. So once you're faced with the tile, you have to decide how to fill it with the pattern, with the figures, and this is what the Kaşan potters were masters of. They left no space unfilled. You have this lovely harmonious composition with the figures seated under this tree, the fish pond at the bottom, and these lovely kind of vegetal sprays of foliage going around in the background. Again, it's not representative. We're not trying to get something that's representative. Let's get something that looks like a photo. It's very cartoony, very flat. The figures are all out of proportion. The heads are too big. So don't worry if your figure looks funny. It has to look funny to work. If it doesn't look funny, it's not going to work. So what we'll do is to start off the drawing. We'll just start off by creating the pool and the two sweet little fish inside the pool. So if you've got your tracing paper, you just do a little line over the top.
To do the same?
If you want to do this, this is to get people, this is to get you into the mood. If you have any creative ideas, I would encourage you to do whatever you like. So this is really just to familiarise yourself with the style and the technique of how the potters work. Yeah, so let's just, and then we'll start off by drawing this little, very simple little fish in the centre. You add your detail, little dots. If you want to use a bit of the blue crayon, use the blue crayon to fill up the space as well. What we're doing is just get used to the mark making, how they made their marks. So you can see the fish is very, it's very kind of rough. No, it's not symmetrical, but it has interesting patterns, like the hexagons, these kind of squashed hexagons on one side in blue, coming out of the pattern of the robes. And here you have the circles. So you have the different. Yeah. So what we're doing now is we're just going to have a look and just get ourselves in the mind of the potter and get used to the mark making that they made. Every drawing technique, every decorating technique has its own way of mark making. So
there's a story about the figure.
yeah. There is, and it's always, there's this very common motif. You'll find this a lot with the tiles, this composition of the figure, the tree, sitting under the tree, maybe it's the tree of life, you don't know, and then you have all these kind of lovely, kind of foliage kind of coming out of it. So it's a very common image. You'll find this a lot on the tiles. So after you've done the fish, we can then start to create this loop at the top here. So let's just fill that in. And you've got this, it's almost like a curtain, isn't it? Kind of coming down from the top. These, like a scene from a play. So we're just going to bring those down. You've got these three little eyes in the centre. And then you can fill in the gaps with this. This is very common. These little squiggles or curlicues, as we call them, a very common motif. Every available space of the tile, if it was blank, they would fill with these little motifs. So we're going to fill those in with the little squiggles here. Again, don't worry if it's not 100% accurate. The only one that's going to be quite difficult to do is these very fine little white lines, but I might just leave those coloured in with the black. So, and you can always use the crayons to colour in the blue underneath the fish. And then we can start building the central composition. So let's start with. We can start with the head. The heads start at the intersect of this star. So just going to build the halo that goes around the top. In pencil, then you can work a bit more freely, and then you can go over it in the pen afterwards. So don't worry about. I think it looks a bit funny. And then you have this. I don't know if you can see it. This lovely bird sitting in the tree. Very slim, elegant, kind of looking bird. So we're just going to draw that. We're going to give it a little beak. And then a little head. You can see there, and you have these kind of curve. They look like rips or branches, maybe. I don't quite know what they're supposed to represent, but we can put those in. And the squiggles as well. Sketch out the halo first. It's like a very round. They seem to intersect on this intersection here. So I would draw like a circle, one particular element of the design. So if you get the outline, build the outline first. Again, use a loose hand because we can go over it. We'll go over it with the ink once it's with a pen. If everyone's got the pen, once we're finished. Yeah, they're the bird. Yeah, that's the bird. Yeah, it's sitting in the tree. It's the great thing about the Kaşan tiles is that when you start looking, you see things that you won't notice at first. But when you really study the tile, then you get these lovely details and surprises. I think so. I mean, nobody knows exactly what the spirituality behind and what they were supposed to represent. I imagine so. It has that calm. It has a kind of very calm feel to it. It's almost as if they are kind of praying or meditating under the tree. And the halos are normally considered to express a high rank. So maybe in a couple. No, there's lots of. There's a definite sense of that you get from looking at these tiles. And I think part of the mystery of them is trying to kind of understand and work out the symbolic nature of the tile, because there's obviously deep symbolism in there, which we can relate to. The what?
Afterwards, you'll be paint?
Afterwards, I would do it with a pen, and you can put the blue in with the crayons, and then we're going to cut round the tile with our scissors, and then we're going to do the cross, and then we're going to put all the crosses together to make a big panel on one of the tables. So we'll have our own Kaşan style tile panel. You can do whatever you want. Anything you want. I mean, that's what I'll be teaching here, but feel free if you want to do your own style or your own methods, then I would be very happy that you do that. It's really to teach, I'm really teaching the style and the way they made their marks rather than the actual kind of compositional structure. So yeah, I would encourage everyone, if you want to put in your own details, I would very much encourage that, your own animals, your own birds, then please feel free. For those of you that are doing your own compositions, I do have a very wide range of source material here. So if you did want to put any like birds or any other animals, then feel free to do that. I'll leave them here, and you can leaf through those and take. There's lots of different. Yeah, they're all different. So you've got lots of different source material there. The face, how they draw the faces, is very common in Kaşan tiles. This kind of very rounded features, almost like the moon. And then you could also sketch out the kind of hexagon, this kind of squashed hexagons that you find in the pattern. These are blue. The blue that you see on the tiles would have been done before the decoration. So the blue that you see on all these tiles, they would have done on the first firing. So this is the tile of 2 firings. The first firing is done with the white glaze. In this case, they would have put this blue on first and fired that first, and then they'd have decorated around the blue. So you get the white, pure white tile with this blue border, these blue circles, and they would have used that as the guide for the composition. So they probably knew, the potters that were making this would have known what composition they were going to put onto it before the tile was fired. On the outside, the blue around the outside of this halo here. And we got the blue going round. Here, and then round here. And you have a little bit of turquoise you can see in the middle there. Again, that's quite common with the Kaşan style tiles. It's blue, the turquoise, and the copper luster is the main colours palette that they used. So what we're doing is just going to apply little blobs of colour. So for me, the 8-pointed star is the perfect geometric construction for this type of composition. There's something about and this method of painting and decorating. It doesn't work so well on the square shape, but with the 8-pointed star, you get that harmony. The total harmony of colour, shade, light. About this kind of colour palette as well, it's very limited, so it forces you to just think about the mark making rather than what colours you use. As soon as you have more colours, things get a lot more difficult because you have to choose what colour is going to go where, what colour would work in certain areas, whereas here you just have the copper and the blue. So it's it's good because it limits you just to that particular, those particular kind of colours. So you're not wasting time trying to decide kind of what colours to use. Blue, in this one, I use a lot of different colours. Generally I use the gold to luster, and then depending on what tiles I'm using, but I find with the gold it's it works best with very strong colours. So, for example, the very strong blues, it's a very perfect, or very strong greens. Like the richer and the stronger the green, the more intense. The better. I mean, you're welcome to have a look at those.
Is it made of what?
Gold. It's made of real gold.
Yeah.
So
Cooked in the oven.
it's cooked in the oven, so to temperatures of 700 degrees.
Why do they call it cooked in the oven and fired in the oven?
I could call it fired in the oven, cooked in the oven. It doesn't really.
Are you going to show us the procedures?
The what?
There's a difference, so it's
No,
like
I want
gold.
to see.
Yes.
The green one.
Yeah, the green. It takes. I've developed a process called vitreous lustrette. So I use a lot of glass with these tiles, and I'm taking advantage of the fact that the tile is a flat. It's a flat object, so you can put a lot of glaze on it, and it's not going to run off the glaze. This technique does not work for pots or bowls because you put this amount of glaze on a pot or bowl, and it will just fall off the glaze, fall off the side and onto the kiln shelf or into the middle of the bowl. So it only works with tiles. So it's a surprise, yeah. So I don't know how it's going to turn out. None of my tiles I make, I know how they're going to turn out. For me, the process reveals itself through the process. So I start off, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, how it's going to look, what colour it's going to be. It's only by doing it, only by painting that it reveals itself. And even then, it looks very different now to how it looked when I put it in the kiln. So the colours, it looks very different, because when you apply it, this doesn't look gold. It looks a very dark brown, and it doesn't smell very nice, and it's very sticky, but when it comes out, it kind of magically transforms into this beautiful gold colour. And the same with the background. I never know how it's going to come out, because I put a lot of glass that swells everything around. So these kind of swirly, almost like clouds in the background, they happen by accident. So you put it in, and sometimes they work. That's by accident, yeah. Sometimes the best things for me, you have to have that. That has to be part of the process, is the accident and not knowing how it's going to come out of the kiln.
You might have a clue because of the experience.
I do, but even now, I do not know how they're going to turn out. That's why it's very exciting, because you never know. You open the kiln, and sometimes your heart lifts, and sometimes you start crying. And especially, it's a very time-consuming process. So sometimes you spend 4 or 5 days on one tile. You put it in the kiln, you open it up, and the tile is broken. So, but you learn to live with that. You know, for me, it's about the process, not about the finished result. It's not about. Yeah, it's about experiments. For me, it's a process of experimentation and being happy with the way of working, not about trying to make a great work of art every time. It's being happy, and that's what I'm hoping to show here, is just the way of working and the process, and for you to enjoy the process, because that's the most important thing in my opinion. No, these ones are used on the wall, and they're mainly used in shrines or tombs. So there's a strong funerary association with these tiles. Out of all the religious buildings that they're used for, I think 18 were tombs, or shrines. You had 2 tombs, and then only 2 were used as mosques. So they were very, they had that was their kind of purpose.
And yours on the floor?
Mine's at the moment now on the floor. I'm making them. I make the ones a lot bigger. So each 8-pointed star that I make is probably about this big and this wide and very thick. So I'm assembling a big wall of tiles at the moment. When it's ready, it'll go on the wall. But at the moment, they're just lying on the floor until I finish it. Then I'll put it on a wall.
So they will be the whole wall?
I think so. Yeah, I hope so. I don't know where they're going to go. For me, I'm just making it because I enjoy making it. I haven't decided, and I don't know what's going to happen once I've finished it. Yeah. The most interesting thing is always the ones where you don't know what's going to happen. I'm a great believer in that. So the experiments, if you work in ceramics, I always say, you always want to be experimenting every time and learning every time. It's very important to learn and experiment. And don't worry about making mistakes. Making mistakes is the only way we learn. If you make mistakes, you won't learn anything. So, so you can also do these little vegetal motifs and flowers. This is a very common motif. This you can see here with the slender stem. The only kind of technique in this that we can't reproduce here is the bits in between the gap, because these are very fine. And what would have happened is they would have put the pigment on and scratched these marks out of the pigment. So, but you can get you can get that effect by just squiggling and just colouring it in, so you can get a feel for the kind of patterns that go around it.
They're scratched after the fire?
This is scratched before the firing. No, before. So it's a pigment. So it's like kind of a thick paint, but it comes off quite easily. So they'll take a very fine point, and I've got one of these, almost like a pencil or a compass point, and just scratch very gently to expose the glaze underneath. So it's applied using a mixture of like a pen that they dip in the pigment to get the outlines for the main composition, and then they would fill in the whole of this area with that you see here with the pigment, and then scratch away with a point with a knife, or it's like a compass point, like a very sharp, almost like a skewer, and then that exposed the white underneath. So it's it's very ingenious. And then these lines would have been applied using just a pen. They'd dip in the pigment and to create these squiggles. These you can see with the luster on the top. So it's a mixture of different techniques. For my tiles, I put the resist over. This gold luster is different to the pigment. It's a lot more sticky. You can't scratch through the surface of the luster when you apply it. So what I do is cover the whole tile in white paint, a thin layer of white paint, and then scratch through with again a scribe and do the whole. It's a process called sgraffito, we call it, I just scratch through the whole tile with the scribe to get the pattern, and then once I've got the pattern, I cover the whole tile with the gold paint, the luster, and then it only sticks to the areas that are exposed. Any areas that aren't exposed just get burnt off.
Scratching the negative side?
Yeah, it's like making it's like making a negative image. So like printmaking. So it's a different because I don't work with the pigments. I work with the gold, and you can't get gold in a pigment format. It wouldn't. No one's invented it yet. So you have to work in a different. I have to work in a different method. But originally, that's what they would have done. This is gold, yeah. This is ceramic and glass.
This is glass and the bottom.
They're both glass. They're both vitreous glazes, those ones. And that one at the top's got cobalt. With this, I painted the dark blue with cobalt, and then put a layer of turquoise glass over the whole tile.
First one is the glass.
First is the cobalt underneath the glass.
Underneath it's cobalt.
Yeah.
And then
And then I put turquoise glass over the whole tile.
turquoise glass already colored.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the glass,
Yeah.
you
And then that's fired once, and then it comes out with the blues, the turquoise and the cobalt, and then you decorate it, and then you fire it again.
why the white is the base?
It's white. I don't know, a happy accident. That happens when you experiment. You get. I think it's when the glaze drops, when the glass melts down,
Yes,
then it exposes the edge.
The temperature of.
Yeah, so you get that nice kind of white line along the edge.
Did you took in considering the temperature, the melting point
Yeah.
of the
Glass.
glass and the it's
Yeah, I'm not sure what temperature. I mean, I fire those to stoneware temperatures, which means they're very high fired. So a tile like this would have been fired to temperatures of 1,000 degrees.
1,000 degrees.
Yeah, once fired to 1,000 degrees.
Cobalt is for 900.
But yeah, that tile is fired to 1,235 degrees. So very hot. And 35 degrees.
On bird, in the oven.
In the oven, yeah.
And what is the second time?
The second time is 700 degrees. So very hot.
For how many minutes?
I just fire it up and then down again. So the firing schedule will be about I'll put it on, if I'm lustering it, I'll put it on at night, so about 5 o'clock, or before I go home, and it'll be ready in the morning. So kind of 12, 14 hours, I would say.
Slow cooking.
Yeah, well, it takes a long time to get to temperature. You can't fire with ceramics, especially the first firing, but also on the second firing, you have to fire it slowly. It's not good to fire it very fast because the tile then can break because of the quick change in temperature. So you want to bring it up as slowly as possible. Otherwise, you can run into problems. Yeah, then we're going to cut them out and do the cross, and then we're going to put them on the exhibition and sell them for thousands of pounds. Thousands of dollars.
Which color can we use for classical, for traditional?
For traditional tile is kind of red colour. There's this brown. Yeah, it's like a metallic. I mean, yeah, red, blue, and turquoise are the three colours. You can probably see a little bit of turquoise in there. So they're the three main colours they would use.
Don't use much color.
No, just those three ones. So it's all about the composition and the black and the white, so the contrast. So when you're not trying to get you're using the very contrasting colours to do the composition.
Is it generally gold with this line?
Yeah, the copper. I use the gold. They hadn't invented gold luster in the 13th century, so they used copper. But it was actually a copper compound mixed with silver and lots of other ingredients like arsenic and vinegar and other things. There's about 9 but they're basically variants of copper and silver compounds. And then the more copper you had, the redder it became. The more silver you had, the more the more gold it was. So depending on the balance of. So what we're going to do is the cross. If you don't want to do the calligraphy, I'll just be focusing on the design in the middle. So don't worry if you don't want to do the right around the outside. This is a lovely looping, spiraling design, which I'll be teaching now. But again, if you want to, all those that want to pursue their own designs, I have a list of like cross tiles here. If you want to do something different, or if you want to put your own, if you have your own ideas that you want to do, you can do that. But I'll be focusing on drawing this lovely floral motif that will complement the star tile perfectly. I won't be doing the calligraphy. I'll just be focusing on the inside of the tile. So what you have with these is this lovely double loop on each section. So we can just draw that first. A very graceful movement with the pen to get that lovely flow. And what I do is just with a light pencil, just trace around it lightly. That's what we're going to do. Yeah. So once we've traced the outline, we're just going to work on the details of the leaves. No, I don't use the paper transfer. Everything's done by hand. So that's why we're trying to learn these skills here, so you can transfer these skills. So it's learning how to draw in the manner that they drew then, and to draw freely. And that will help you then if you're doing your own compositions and you want to paint. Then by learning from the best, which in my opinion these guys were, you can get it'll improve your own practice as artists. And you can apply this not just tiles but fabrics, any paints. Also learning is how they represented leaves and the plants and the natural forms, and these kind of shapes they used aren't visual representations.
representations.
I think you have to free, but I think that's a good thing. That's what I'm trying to encourage, that kind of, the way I work is, first of all, a very rough and ready way, and then you apply the detail afterwards. So rather than starting off with the detail, you start off with the big kind of brush marks or pencil marks, the flowing, to get that flow and make it more kind of natural and spontaneous. And then once you've got the main composition, then you can start then kind of focusing on the detail and okay, brilliant. Can I see? Very nice. Yeah, I like it. Very good. The same size. Yeah, yeah. So we're going to put them, once we finish, we'll lay them all out onto a table so they all fit in together. So we'll have a big panel to photograph. So if you cut that, yeah, with the scissors. Yeah, well, it's trying to kind of, I want it to reflect my own practice as well, not just to copy and what's done before, but to have something that's, comes from within me and inspires me as an artist. I think that's important, not just, it's great. Copying is brilliant and it's very good to learn, which is what we're doing now. But then, once you've learnt those skills, then as an artist, you have to kind of apply that to your own work. So that's very important. And for me, yeah, it's using poetry that's not contemporary, because this is probably written 100 years ago, but something that really relates for me, and that relates to the image, and it's an important part. That's not, yeah. I mean, with this one, this will all fit in together. So that one should fit in like that, you see. So what we're going to do is combine so we're going to combine everybody's together. So once you're finished, we'll put them all together and then we'll have a lovely work of art that we can then photograph of everyone's pieces as like a group, to show what we can achieve as a group. So that's and I think it's similar. I mean, you get those figures are very similar. That idea of the figures in a garden, almost like an enchanted garden with the tree and the fish. That's a very
Each star has different
fish. Yeah, it's different scene. The figures tend to be very similar, so they all look the same way. The face is generally painted the same way. So it's not. They're not. I think it's in my book there, but there are. I mean, there are designed for use in shrines and tombs, and the whole wall will be covered. You have and then over the centuries, people realised how valuable they were, so a lot of them were ripped down and sold. So now most of them are in the collections and museums around the world. And just pieces, you'll get old ones coming up for sale, and some museums have got very nice panels of them, but where they were originally, there's just a blank wall. And it's a shame. But what happened was people realised how valuable they were, and either they were ripped down or sold. Some of the mihrabs that were in the shrines were taken down and sold to rich merchants, who then sold them on to Europe, mainly in America. So you had a lot. So a lot of the tiles. I mean, there's still a lot that remain in Iran, but a lot of them, some of the best work was taken and sold.
If I'm not wrong, you said 12th century or something?
Yeah, 12th century is the end of the 12th and the beginning of the 13th was considered the height. The Seljuks, yeah, it's the Seljuks. Yeah, the Seljuks are the lustreware was invented in Iraq, or that's where the first piece of lustreware pottery we see. Afterwards, the potters seem to have migrated to Egypt and the Fatimids, and then the Fatimid dynasty collapsed. And then we assume the potters who were living in Egypt at the time moved, and then you had then under the Seljuk in Kaşan, then you had this great flowering of lustreware, and that's when the great lustreware vessels and tiles were made. And then for about 1220, I think the Mongols invaded. And then lusterware production effectively ceased for about 40 years until about 1260, 1265 under the Urkhanids. And then we saw the second great kind of output of lusterware that lasted until the kind of beginning of the 14th century.
The original ones are in which museum?
Well, there's lots of different. They're all over the place. I mean, there are lots of. I mean, there are some original Kaşan tiles in the. I saw a few in the Museum of Islamic Art here.
Yes, but our Selçuk tiles are in Konya, in
Yeah.
other museums. Not in
Yeah. I mean, there are lots of.
in
The Louvre has got.
Victoria, Albert.
Yeah, British Museum. There's a panel of beautiful Kaşan tiles in the Louvre, in the Pergamon Museum in Berlin. There are lots of. I mean, they're made in quite a large quantity, so there are quite a lot of them. A lot of them kind of around, and some of them, a lot of them come up for auction as well. But the better pieces, generally speaking, are in the museums that you see. So this is a group exercise. Once we've finished doing the style, we'll do the cross, and then we'll put everyone's tiles together.